Do you want to learn how to become a real estate photographer? Check out my course, How to Become a Real Estate Photographer, at rickmcavoyphotography.com. Polarising filters, what are they? Do I need one? Polarising filters attach to camera lenses and reduce reflections and glare, and can improve colour saturation. And they can simply make your photos look better. What is not to love, eh? And they don't cost a lot either, and they're easy to use. And I've got a couple of these that I absolutely love. So in this episode, I'm going to tell you when, how, and indeed why I use my polarising filters. In the last episode, I said you can think of neutral density filters as sunglasses for your camera lens. I think this applies even more to polarising filters, which are pretty much the same as polarising sunglasses, and no surprise there. Right, that was a super quick answer a bit. How utterly splendid. Let's get into this. Hi, and a very warm welcome to episode 208 of the Photography Explained podcast. I'm your host, Rick. Hi. And in each episode, I will try to explain one photographic thing to you in plain English in less than 27 minutes-ish, without the irrelevant details. Yes, really. I'm a professionally qualified photographer based in England with a lifetime of photographic experience, which I share with you in my Splendid podcast. Right, let's start at the beginning. What are polarising filters? Firstly, how do you spell polarising? You've got a bit of a problem here. Here in England, it's with an S in the middle. In the US, the preferred spelling is with a Z or Z. So I'm going to stick to the English version, which I hope is okay with you, because I'm English, no other reason, honest. Right, so what does polarising mean? Now, I did search for this answer, and apart from the other meaning, which is to divide people into opposing groups, nice bit of additional knowledge there, Rick. Polarising changes the way light moves. Now, I was hoping for a more definitive scientific explanation, but I've realised I don't need one, and I'm going to explain this in practical terms, which means something to us photographers. And when I say that, it means me. There's no point in me going into this. Oh, I'll come on to that in a minute. Don't ad-lib science, Rick. You should know better than that. Okay, so there are two types of polarising filters. There are linear ones and circular ones. To save time, I've never owned or used a linear polarising filter. So I'm going to talk about circular polarising filters only. Makes sense, doesn't it? Yes, it does, Rick. As with all terms in photography, circular polarising filters are abbreviated to CPL, which it never really made sense to me. How does CPL become circular polarising? Yeah, I know there's a P and an L in polarising, but it doesn't make sense, but it's not that important, is it, Rick? So move on. This is important. How does a circular polarising filter work? Well, this is how I like to explain things, simply. Point your camera at something, look through the viewfinder, rotate the filter, and see what happens. Now, as an example, suppose you're pointing your camera at the sea and there's a reflection of the sun. When you rotate the lens, when you get to the polarising bit, the reflections disappear and they're replaced by deeper colours than the light glare that match the rest of the sea. And that's the filter in action, getting rid of the glare and reflections and giving you what's really there. So it's a good thing, isn't it? And if you keep on rotating or rotate back through 90 or 180 degrees, not really sure to be honest, you can see what's happening when the filter isn't polarising, and that's what I love about these filters. Yep, there's much more I could say here about light rays, bending, directions, angles, and what the filter's actually doing. But the reality is this. Rotate the filter and watch the magic happen. I don't need the technical side of what's happening because I can see it with my own eyes. It's good enough for me. Knowing what's happening with the light waves is not going to help me take better photos, so we can leave the science there. And if you want to know what's happening with the light waves, let me know and I'll refer you to someone cleverer than me who might be able to tell you, because I can't, and I think we know that, don't we? So I'm going to move on, and I'll use practical examples of how I use my polarising filters rather than my very low-grade science. Okay, a few other things I want to cover off. What are polarizing filters made of? Glass or resin, same as ND filters, but I do believe they are mainly made from glass. And here's something I didn't know, or it's something that I did know but I've since forgotten, which in my case means it could have been in the last week rather than 37 years ago. So yeah, I might have known this and I've forgotten it. A circular polarizing filter, it's got two pieces of polarized glass. One's fixed and one rotates. So when you rotate the filter, one layer of glass moves and one doesn't. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I didn't know that, and I'm now doubting that that's actually correct, but let's go with that. It sounds good to me. How much light is blocked by a polarizing filter? It's going to vary with the filter, but generally there's about a 1.5 stop reduction in light getting through to the camera sensor. 1 to 2 stops, somewhere in there, but 1.5 stops seems quite common. So yes, you can use it as a 1.5 stop ND filter if you want. How do I attach a polarizing filter to my camera lens? A circular polarizing filter is circular, no surprise there. So it screws into the filter thread on the front of your lens. And you can also use step-down rings to put a larger filter onto smaller lenses if you want to, which I covered in the last episode. That was my top tip from the last episode, which applies equally to polarizing filters. How utterly splendid. Are polarizing filters expensive? It depends. Of course it does. It's photography. There's no simple answer. Now, I bought one the other week before my trip, which I'll come on to, for my Olympus 14 to 42mm pancake lens. It's a tiny lens with a 37mm filter thread. And this circular polarizing filter, it cost me less than £10. Yep, less than a tenner for a circular polarizing filter, and one of a decent quality as well, which is good, isn't it? As with all these things, you can spend as much or as little as you want. There is so much choice out there, and that is probably one of the problems with filters, isn't it? There's so much choice, how do you know which one to buy? Well, I'm not going to tell you what's good and what isn't because, well, I've got one filter which I bought 3 weeks ago, and I got one which I bought about 27 years ago, which I can't find. Check out the reviews, buy a decent brand, and you're good to go. And in general terms, the more money you spend, the better the filter. But there are some good quality, cheaper filters these days. The cheap ones used to be absolutely rubbish, but there's some good stuff out there these days. And let's not forget, the larger the filter, the more expensive it will be, which makes sense. Of course it does. Having said that, shoes are all the same price, aren't they, regardless of the size? So a pair of size 6s and a pair of size 12s are the same cost. Why is that? That doesn't make sense. Okay, that's not in the script, by the way. And if you're not sure if you want one, or you want to try one, just buy a cheap one and see how you get on. Like I said, I got one for a tenner, but it was a tiny, tiny filter. It's really tiny. A shame the box is big enough for a 77mm filter. That was a disappointment. I'm easily disappointed, aren't I? Yep, so as I said, I bought one the other week as I didn't have one for that lens, my pancake lens, which I use when I go on holiday. The pancake lens, just for completeness, it's a tiny lens which makes my Olympus EM5 even smaller than it is with the big 12 to 40mm f2.8 Pro lens, making it so small my family barely know I've got a camera with me. And it's also pocket size. And it's a decent quality lens. And to repeat myself from before and the last episode, buy the best gear you can afford, look after it, and it'll serve you well for many, many years. See, I've had a circular polarizing filter for, well, it's well over a decade now, if only I could find it. I might give you an update in the next episode on that. Did I find my 77mm circular polarizing filter? Right, what can I do with an ND filter? Oh, I haven't updated my script, have I? No, you haven't. Just updated the script there. What can I do with a circular polarizing filter? Right, this is the good stuff. Not that everything so far wasn't utterly splendid, of course, but I'm going to tell you what I use polarizing filters for. This is much more practical advice I'm going to give you. And I'm going to talk about what I did last week with that 37mm circular polarising filter on the Tiny Pancake lens on my tiny Olympus EM5. Now, I just come back from my holidays 3 days ago at the time of recording. I had the very great fortune to be on the wonderful island of Sal in Cape Verde, which is located about 350 miles off the coast of Africa, and it's roughly level with Senegal. It was a family holiday and not a photography trip, so my photo-taking opportunities were limited. That being the case, I restricted my photography to my favourite place, which is the beach when I'm on holiday. Now, the beaches in Cape Verde are fantastic. They're wonderful. There's lots of them. The sand's wonderful. The colours in the sea are wonderful. The colours in the sand are wonderful. And you can very quickly get to beaches that haven't got any people on them. I love these beaches so much that I ran daily there, and this is a real treat for me, as with my ageing, dodgy old knees, I can only run on soft surfaces, and I suffer when I'm running on roads. It turns out sandy beaches are perfect for me, so this is what I do. And it's really good for you running on sand. It's hard work, so it's good always up. And when I'm out running, guess what I do? I am looking for things to photograph. Of course I am. Yes, I'm looking for that one photo when I go out running. I love it when things come together like this, like me running on the beach with my one photo rule. Yes, this really is what I do. This is really how my brain works, and this is really what I think about when I'm running. So one of the things I wanted to photograph was simply the extent of the beach with the colours of the water and the sand and the sky. Those lovely white fluffy clouds, the blue sky, all that holiday loveliness. This is absolutely ideal fare for a circular polarising filter, which nicely cuts the glare from the sun on the sea and enhances the blues and the greens nicely. It darkens the sky a touch, which I'm fine with, and it makes the clouds pop. It's just a perfect thing for a beach/sea scene. It's lovely, and it looks natural too. So yes, an ideal use case for a circular polarising filter. And I used the same technique on my one photo, which was a photo of a small open hut at a jaunty angle on the beach. I captured this looking towards the sea with a coconut and the Cape Verde flag in the composition. And no, they were not planted by me. They were already there. Yep, a coconut just sat there, placed perfectly for me. I think someone might have taken the photograph before me, but I'm not sure. Oh, on that point, I took quite a bit of time taking photos of this little hut on the beach. It's at the end of the beach. Well, it's not at the end of it. It's at the end of where people are on the beach on sun lounges. Beyond that, it's empty beach, just the odd person walking. And I've never seen anybody take a photo there before. But I spent probably 20 minutes studying this hut, finding the best composition. Okay, I took more than one photo. But after I'd done that, I did notice when I moved on, 3 people came up and took photographs of the same thing, having watched me do it. So, yay, I'm an inspiration. Getting back to the photo, it gave more depth and more vibrant colours, deeper colours. It was wonderful. And that was a week ago I was taking those photographs. It feels like a world away now. Need to get back there. I'm going to post these photos on the podcast website after I've processed them, and it's going to be 2 or 3 photos only. That's all I want. And these photos are the hut I talked about, and a general view of the sea, the sky, the sun, the sand, the clouds, one in landscape and one in portrait orientation. That's it. That's probably the 3 photos that I will use from all the ones I took on my holiday, because I only want 1 or 2 photos of somewhere. That's all I need. Right, let's move on from my holidays. Other uses of circular polarising filters. Other than using them on beach shots, I've used them to reduce the reflections on all sorts of things, including buildings. You can significantly change how a building looks with careful use of a circular polarising filter. But you have to be careful. These photos will look different from those taken without the filter. So you must decide if that is okay. And they will also look different from how you see the building with your eyes with no sunglasses on. So you need to remember that as well. a set of images that look different doesn't form a coherent set. So if you take some photos of the front with a circular polarizing filter, and then you take some of a different parts of the building without, they're not going to hang together. So you need to decide if you're going to use the polarizing filter for all of those photos for consistency or for none of them. And if I'm photographing a building for a client, that's what I'll do. It's either all with the polarizing filter or none with the polarizing filter. I don't want both because I'll end up trying to make them look the same in Lightroom, which never works. It just doesn't. Don't care what anybody says. And if it does work, it's just more time. It just depends on you. It's something you need to be aware of and decide before you start taking photographs. Now, if you research this like I did, you'll find it said in many places it works to reduce reflections on non-metallic surfaces only. But that doesn't include things like the painted part of a car, but it does include things like the chrome bits, just the metal bits. Have a go with the car and see what I mean. You can really make dramatic differences. And it works an absolute treat on glass. So any subject matter with a lot of glass in it, you can make a massive difference. You can look through windows that you couldn't see through. It's incredible what these things can do. And this does vary according to the angle of view to the subject matter and the sun, but that's a complication too far from me that I'm not going to attempt to explain. Like I've said before, there's a visual test for this. That's good enough for me. So they do work a treat when photographing cars. They reduce reflections from glass and from the painted metal, but again, you've got to be careful and make sure if you're taking more than one photo, and if you are, why are you, dear listener, that you get consistency from one image to the next. They can make a significant difference to how a car is photographed, how a car looks. It's huge because of all those shiny reflective surfaces, assuming it's a clean, shiny car, that is. So be aware of this and be consistent. They're also great for various other things like reducing the glare from wet leaves, leaving a nice flat, deep colour, which again, it's a massive improvement to a scene. Wet roads, the same thing. Anything like that, it's really good for. And they can also make clouds pop. They can bring out the depth of colours and shades in there. And they can help cut through reflections in any water. You can take photographs of a river and you can see through the water, which you can't do with your naked eyes. It's an amazing thing. They can make any photo with water look much better. You've got to be conscious of the change that you are causing by using the filter. And going back to landscape photography, reducing the reflected light, it can enhance the colours we capture, trees, leaves, grass, all that good stuff. And they can also help reduce haze as well, so what is not to love? Right, it sounds too good to be true, doesn't it? So what are the problems with using a circular polarising filter? Sometimes it's difficult to see what it's doing. With my non-technical head on, if I can't see what the filter's doing, it might be because it isn't doing anything. But in theory, if I rotate the filter and look at something that's got something shiny in it, and then I remove that shine, then I photograph something that hasn't got something shiny in it, I should be getting the same polarising effect. I should be getting that little boost in colours, what have you. I should be getting the same effect on non-reflective things. And that leads to an obvious question. Well, can't I do this stuff in post-processing? Do I have to faff around with the screw-in filter which I put on the end of my lens? Well, the answer is you can replicate the increase in saturation potentially, but you cannot replicate the polarising effect, as this is done by the filter blocking some of the light getting through to the camera sensor. It's changing the light that you are capturing. So this is something that happens when you take a photo, and it cannot be added after in post-processing. I know some bright spot's going to tell me they can do this, but I can't, and I don't really want to. I'd prefer to do stuff like this when I take photos, not sat on my computer. Photography for me, it's not about spending hours changing photos on a computer. It is about the taking photos bit, and that's what I love. Okay, but don't the photos look fake? Well, not really. Removing reflections and glare is fine, because if you think about it, how would anybody possibly know that there are reflections or glare there if you've removed them when you took the photo? No one will know, so it's fine. Of course, blue skies can look darker, but it's no more so than with you wearing a pair of polarising sunglasses or with some very minor tweaks in post-processing. And I wear a pair of polarising sunglasses whenever I'm out and about in the sunshine because they protect my eyes. So what I'm photographing is what I'm used to seeing anyway, so it's not fake for me. That is my polarised reality, and not in a bad way. So sure, things look different but fake. Well, I'll let you decide, but I don't think so. The follow-up question, is using a polarising filter cheating? No, it's not. I don't think it is. We're using some science here to change the light that gets through to our camera sensors. We're doing this in a deliberate, conscious way. So no, it's not cheating. It's getting the best out of the light that's there, which is what photography is all about. Let's not forget what photography means. Photography is drawing with light. Sometimes saying you've used a polarising filter may be required, like maybe in some kind of photojournalism or competitions or where there are strict rules about use of photos with filters, but in the main, it's fine, it's not cheating, it's what people do. But please remember this, a circular polarising filter, it reduces the exposure by circa 1 to 2 stops. So if you take a meter reading without a circular polarising filter and you get a shutter speed for your selected aperture of 1/125th of a second, put a circular polarising filter on and that shutter speed will reduce to 1/30th of a second, assuming you're using AV mode, which I do. Now that gets us into camera shake zone, so you need to be aware of that. And also remember this. Remember that photos taken using a circular polarising filter look different from photos taken without a circular polarising filter. You'd hope so, wouldn't you? But you need to be aware of this. And also, let's not forget that all those photos we see with those amazing deep blue skies on Instagram, all the other social media sites, travel blogs, everything. How do you think those photos were taken? Yes, you got it. Right, here's something for you to do, dear listener. Go and get a cheap polarising filter that fits your favourite lens. Get out there, have a go, and see what you think. Take photos using the polarised effect and without the polarising effect. Compare the two. You might not like it, that's fine. There's only one way for you to find out, and that's to go out and do it yourself. And if you've got a pair of polarising sunglasses, do what I do far too often. Look at something like a car or anything that's got anything shiny and move your head left and right and watch the changes. That's what a polarising filter's doing. It's the same effect. I do this all the time. It's not healthy, I know, but that's just me, isn't it? Get the filter, give it a go, and then let me know how you get on. Please, it'd be lovely to hear from you. Okie dokie, what if I use a phone to take photos? Well, you can get clip-on circular polarising filters for phones. I didn't know that. I do now. And no, I'm not going to try this. I'm fortunate enough to have cameras, so I don't need to, but if all you've got is a phone to take photos with, you can have a play as well, which is good, isn't it? What do? I've told you, haven't I? I'll say it again. Remember, photos taken with a circular polarising filter look different to those taken without. This is important to me, it might be to you. And I look after my filters with the same care I do all my gear, which is why they last me so long and why I can justify buying higher quality products. I don't want to buy a filter that's going to degrade the image quality or give me artificial colours. That's no use to me. But I also don't want to spend a fortune. I just want good quality products that last, and I'm going to look after them. And that's what I do. Okay, some thoughts from the last episode. Well, that was neutral density filters, wasn't it? How utterly splendid. So much so that I bought a variable ND filter. Yes, I have. It's got 2 to 5 stops and I've got one to play with, but I've not had a chance to use it yet, but I will soon. Next episode, crop factors explained. I need to do this. I need to get this out of the way. Unless one of you dear listeners comes up with something better. So If you don't want me to do crop factors, get your questions in. And the first one that I receive that I can make an episode out of, that is what I will do. And I will give you, the person who's given me that question, a big old shout out on that episode. Crop factors, I can't wait for your help with that one and avoiding it. Right, a quick plug for me and what I do. Well, why not, eh? If I can't plug myself on my own podcast, where can I? So you found this podcast. Check out the podcast website, photographyexplainedpodcast.com. And I've got another photography website, rickmcavoyphotography.com, where I write blog posts about my photographs of buildings and lots of other good stuff. And then there's my courses page, rickmcavoyphotography.com/courses, where you will find my course, How to Become a Real Estate Photographer. And you can also find me on YouTube talking about my podcast and my blog. Just type my name in and you'll soon find me. Enough about me. Oh no, sorry. Get a weekly email from me. Do you want a weekly email from me? Well, why not, eh? Although I'm a bit disappointed that 2 people unsubscribed when they got the email from me last Friday, which is me saying, "Hi, Rick here, I'm on the holidays. I'll be back with you next Friday. Hope this is okay." 2 people unsubscribed. How cruel. But if you want a weekly email, fill in the box on any of my websites, and every Friday you will read what I'm thinking about, photography related, unless I'm on holiday. And that is the self-promotion over. Back to you, dear listener. If you got a question you'd like me to answer, email me, sales@rickmcavoyphotography.co.uk. If you just want to say hi, email me, say hi. Love to hear from you. And you can text from the podcast feed. So many ways to get in touch. How splendid. However you get in touch, it's always lovely to hear from you, dear listeners. Okay, this episode was brought to you by the Cape Verde Tourist Board. Not really, but I'm delighted to be able to promote this wonderful place. And I need to say this, the people there are absolutely wonderful. I love them to bits. They're so genuinely nice and kind and friendly. They're not being nice to get your money. They're genuinely nice people, lovely, lovely people. And I look forward to going back and meeting some of them again. So happy to promote Cape Verde as a fantastic tourist location. But no, this episode was unfortunately brought to you by, wait for it, a cheese and pickle sandwich and a bag of salt and vinegar crisps, which I consumed before settling in my homemade acoustically cushioned recording emporium. Okay, I'm done. I've been Rick McAvoy. Thanks again very much for listening to my small but perfectly formed podcast, it says here, and for giving me, 27 minutes of your valuable time. I reckon this episode will be about 23 minutes long after I've edited out the mistakes and the other bad stuff. Thanks for listening. Take care. Stay safe. Cheers from me, Rick. How to become a real estate photographer. rickmcavoyphotography.com/courses.